Dr. Victor Carmichael's fist slammed into the steel cabinet, inches from Maya Chen's face. "You're done," he screamed, spittle flying. "Security! Get this woman out of my hospital before I have her arrested." Maya's hands were still covered in blood, the blood of Private Lucas Reyes, the 19-year-old she just saved while Carmichael ate lunch with millionaire donors. Her crime? Saving a life without his permission. 6 months later, that same rage would kill him, because when America's most decorated general lay dying, he'd gasp 5 words that shattered everything. "Get me the nurse you fired." Subscribe now. Comment your city. This story will shake you. Before we dive into this incredible story of courage and redemption, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our stories. And comment below telling us what city you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel around the world. Now, let's begin. The rain hit the windows of St. Michael's Veterans Hospital like bullets. Inside Trauma Bay 4, Maya Chen's hands were completely steady, but her heart was hammering against her ribs like it wanted to escape. She knew what was coming. Private Lucas Reyes, 19 years old, fresh-faced and terrified, was turning blue. Not the kind of blue you see in movies, real blue. The blue of a body shutting down because it couldn't breathe. "His airways closing," Nurse Rita Garcia whispered, her voice tight with panic. Rita was 56, had worked at St. Michael's for 32 years, and Maya had never heard fear in her voice before. "Maya, we need to intubate. Now." Maya was already moving toward the crash cart when Rita's hand clamped down on her wrist. "Don't." Maya stared at her. "What?" "Dr. Carmichael changed the protocols last week. Remember?" Rita's eyes were wide, pleading. "The medication cabinet, it's locked. Electronic lock. Needs his thumbprint and authorization code." "Then page him." "I did, 3 times. He's not answering." Maya looked at the monitor. Lucas's oxygen saturation was at 78%, 75, 72. Every second, his brain was dying a little bit more. "Where is he?" Rita's jaw tightened. "Donor lunch, the new cardiovascular wing. He's courting the Henderson Foundation for $12 million. Of course he was. Doctor Victor Carmichael didn't just run the surgical department at St. Michael's. He owned it. 42 years old, Harvard Medical School, 3 published research papers that had revolutionized trauma protocols, and an ego the size of Lake Michigan. The hospital board worshipped him. Donors opened their checkbooks when he smiled. And nurses? Nurses were interchangeable parts in the great machine of his genius. He'd made that very clear at last month's staff meeting. "If I wanted opinions from nursing staff," he'd said, looking directly at Maya, "I would ask for them. Your job is to follow my protocols exactly as written. No improvisation, no heroics, no cowboy medicine. Is that understood?" Maya had nodded with everyone else, but her jaw had been clenched so hard she'd given herself a headache that lasted 2 days. "Maya," Rita's voice cracked, "he said he'd fire the next person who bypassed that lock. He meant it." Jennifer got written up just for asking about it. Jennifer asked a question. She didn't save a life. "You won't be saving anyone if you're unemployed and your license is flagged." Maya looked at Rita, really looked at her. Rita had 3 kids in college. She had a mortgage. She had 18 months until retirement and a pension she'd been counting on since 1992. Rita was right to be scared, but Private Lucas Reyes was still dying. Maya walked to the medication cabinet. The sophisticated electronic lock glowed red. State-of-the-art security system, authorized personnel only. There was a small hammer in a glass case next to it, labeled Emergency Overguy. "Maya, please." Rita was crying now. "Please don't do this." "Turn around." "What?" "Turn around, Rita. You didn't see anything. You were in the supply closet looking for extra IV bags." "Maya." "That's an order." Maya grabbed the hammer. The glass shattered with a sound like a gunshot. She seized the epinephrine. the intubation kit, the emergency airways. Her hands moved on autopilot, 2 decades of trauma experience taking over. She'd done this in field hospitals in Afghanistan while mortar shells fell around her. She'd done this in earthquake zones with no electricity and dying flashlights. She'd done this in the back of moving ambulances on highways with drunk drivers swerving into their lane. She could damn sure do it in a fully equipped hospital trauma bay. "Bag him," Maya ordered. Rita hesitated for only a second before grabbing the ambu bag, squeezing oxygen into Lucas's failing lungs. Maya inserted the laryngoscope, visualized the vocal cords, swollen, angry red, closing like a fist, and threaded the endotracheal tube through the impossible gap with a precision that came from doing this procedure 400 times. The tube slid home. Maya connected it to the ventilator. The machine began to breathe for Lucas. His oxygen saturation climbed. 80, 85, 90, 95. The monitor's alarm finally, blessedly, stopped screaming. Maya stepped back. Her scrubs were soaked with sweat. Her hands were shaking now, the adrenaline crash hitting her like a freight train. "You saved him," Rita whispered. "Yeah. Carmichael's going to destroy you." "Yeah." The double doors slammed open. Dr. Victor Carmichael walked in, wiping crumbs from his mouth. Salmon, probably. The Henderson Foundation always served salmon at their donor luncheons. He was flanked by 2 hospital administrators in expensive suits, Janet Way and Robert Morrison, both carrying leather portfolios like shields. Carmichael stopped when he saw the shattered glass on the medication cabinet. The room went silent except for the ventilator's rhythmic hiss. "What," Carmichael said, his voice dangerously quiet, "is the meaning of this?" Maya straightened her shoulders. "Patient went into anaphylactic shock from contrast dye. You weren't answering your pages. I had to intervene." Carmichael walked slowly to the medication cabinet, examining the broken lock like it was a crime scene. He ran his finger over the jagged glass. "You destroyed hospital property. I saved a patient's life. You violated protocol. Your protocol was going to kill him." Carmichael turned to look at her. His eyes were flat, empty. This wasn't about Lucas Reyes. This had never been about Lucas Reyes. This was about power. "Nurse Chen," Carmichael said, loud enough for the administrators to hear clearly, "you have committed gross negligence. You have destroyed secured hospital property. You have administered restricted medications without physician oversight or authorization. You have violated every protocol established for patient safety in this department." "Patient safety?" Maya's voice rose despite herself. "Look at the monitor, doctor. He's alive. His oxygen is at 98%. He's going to wake up tomorrow morning because I didn't wait for you to finish your salmon." Rita gasped. "You didn't talk to Dr. Carmichael like that. Nobody talked to Dr. Carmichael like that." Carmichael's face flushed red. "How dare you? How dare I save a patient's life? How dare I do my job while you were schmoozing donors?" "Your job," Carmichael said, biting off each word, "is to follow my orders. My job is to keep people alive." Janet Way stepped forward, her voice artificially calm. "Dr. Carmichael, perhaps we should discuss this in your office." "No." Carmichael kept his eyes locked on Maya. "This is exactly what I've been talking about. The insubordination in this nursing staff is completely out of control. It's a liability to this hospital. If Nurse Chen had miscalculated that dosage, if she had placed that tube incorrectly, we would be facing a massive lawsuit right now." "But I didn't miscalculate," Maya said through gritted teeth. "I didn't place it incorrectly. I saved his life." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point, doctor?" Carmichael smiled. It was a terrible smile. "The point, Nurse Chen, is that you're done. Pack your locker. I want you off these premises in 20 minutes. Security will escort you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Rita made a choked sound. "You can't do that. She's the head trauma nurse.
She's been here for 18 years.
Not anymore. Carmichael turned to the administrators. I want this documented as a safety violation. I want her license flagged for review by the state board. We cannot have cowboys running around my hospital putting patients at risk. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Not break, just crack. Like ice on a lake in early spring. Your hospital, she said quietly. Excuse me? You said my hospital. This isn't your hospital, Victor. These aren't your patients. This isn't your trauma bay. You're just a doctor who's very good at talking rich people into writing checks. Carmichael's face went from red to purple. Security, now. I'll save you the trouble. Maya unpinned her ID badge. She'd worn that badge for 18 years. She'd worn it through 3 deployments. She'd worn it through the birth of her daughter. She'd worn it the day her husband died of pancreatic cancer. She placed it on the metal instrument tray with a clatter that seemed to echo forever. You're a small man, Victor, Maya said. Her voice was perfectly steady now. And someday a patient is going to come through those doors that your ego can't save. I just hope I'm not around to see what happens to them. She looked at Lucas one more time. Still breathing, still alive, still 19 years old with his whole life ahead of him. Then she walked out. The rain was waiting for her. It soaked through her scrubs in seconds, plastering her dark hair to her skull. Security guard Tom Martinez, who'd shared coffee with her on hundreds of night shifts, stood awkwardly by the door with a cardboard box containing her personal effects. I'm sorry, Maya, Tom said quietly. Not your fault. Inside the box was a framed photo of her late husband Daniel in his Marines dress blues, a stethoscope her daughter had bought her for Christmas, and a coffee mug that said, World's Okayest Nurse. That was it. 18 years reduced to a cardboard box that could fit in a car trunk. Maya walked to her Honda Civic in the employee parking lot. She didn't cry. She was too numb for crying. She sat in the driver's seat, rain drumming on the roof, and checked her phone. 60 text messages from coworkers. She didn't read them. One voicemail from her daughter Sophie, a college sophomore in Boston. Mom, I just heard. Call me. I love you. Maya turned off her phone. She couldn't talk to Sophie right now. She couldn't explain to her brilliant, fierce, idealistic daughter that sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything. She drove home to her apartment in Oak Park, took a shower so hot it left her skin red, and climbed into bed at 3 in the afternoon. She didn't get up for 2 days. 3 weeks later, the Illinois State Board of Nursing sent a letter. Maya Chen's license was under formal review for unsanctioned emergency intervention and destruction of hospital security protocols. The review could take 6 months. Until then, she was suspended from nursing practice in the state of Illinois. Dr. Victor Carmichael had made sure the complaint was ironclad. Maya applied to 47 hospitals in 3 states. 47 polite rejection letters arrived in return. The word had spread. Carmichael was connected. He was powerful. He was the future Surgeon General of the United States, or so the rumors said. Nobody wanted to hire the nurse who defied him. You could fight this, Sophie said over FaceTime. You could get a lawyer. This is wrongful termination. This is retaliation. With what money, sweetheart? I'll drop out. I'll get a job, You're not dropping out of MIT. Mom, we're done discussing it. Sophie's face crumpled, but she nodded. Maya ended the call and stared at her laptop screen. Monster.com, Indeed.com, Craigslist. She was 42 years old. She had an 18-year career in trauma nursing. She had survived military deployments, natural disasters, and a Chicago winter in an ambulance with broken heat. And she couldn't get a job answering phones at a dental office. 6 months later, the Paws and Claws Emergency Veterinary Clinic smelled like disinfectant, wet dog, and desperation. Maya was on her knees on the tile floor at 2:15 in the morning, scrubbing out a kennel where a golden retriever had gotten sick. The bleach stung her nose and made her eyes water. Or maybe that wasn't the bleach. You doing okay? Dr. Keisha Washington, the night shift vet, poked her head into the kennel area. She was 31, kind, and deeply uncomfortable with the fact that her kennel attendant had more medical experience than half the staff. I'm fine. You don't have to do this, you know. You could. I need the job, Keisha. I know, but I need the job. Keisha nodded and disappeared back into the exam room. Maya dipped her sponge into the soapy water and kept scrubbing. This was her life now. Minimum wage, graveyard shift, cleaning up after sick animals while the nursing career she'd built over 2 decades moldered in the grave Victor Carmichael had dug for it. Her phone buzzed in her back pocket. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Maya pulled it out, irritated. Probably Sophie checking on her again. Sophie called every night at 2:30, like clockwork, making sure Maya hadn't. The screen said Rita Garcia. Maya's heart stuttered. Rita knew better than to call during her shift. Rita knew Maya was barely holding it together. Rita wouldn't call unless... Maya answered. Rita, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are the kids... Maya. Rita's voice was unrecognizable, high, breathless, terrified. Maya, you need to come back, now. Maya let out a bitter laugh, leaning against the cinder block wall. Rita, you know I can't. Carmichael threatened to have me arrested for trespassing if I even step into the parking lot. It's not Carmichael asking. Then who? The military, Maya. It's the military. Oh God, there are soldiers everywhere. There are helicopters on the roof. The entire hospital is on lockdown, and they're asking for you. They're demanding you. Maya's blood went cold. What are you talking about? There was a scuffling sound. The phone changed hands. A deep, resonant voice came on the line. Not panicked, terrifyingly calm. The voice of a man who'd given orders under fire. Miss Chen, the voice said, this is Sergeant First Class DeMarco, head of security for General Marcus Donovan. We are currently at your registered address, but your neighbor informed us you work nights at a veterinary clinic. We are en route to your location now. ETA 2 minutes. Maya's throat closed. General Donovan? The name triggered a memory she'd buried deep, tried to forget. 3 years ago, Forward Operating Base Hammerhead, Afghanistan. She'd been assigned to a combat support hospital, working triage on casualties coming in from a valley operation. The radio had crackled to life. American patrol pinned down, heavy casualties, medic wounded, no air support available due to weather. And Maya had spent 47 minutes on that radio, talking a special forces operator through field surgery while mortar shells rained down around him. She'd never seen his face. She'd never learned his name. But she remembered his voice, calm, focused, following her instructions exactly while his men bled out in the dirt. He's dying, ma'am, Sergeant DeMarco said. General Donovan is dying, and he's refused further treatment from Dr. Carmichael and his team. He requested you specifically by name. He said, DeMarco's voice caught. He said you're the only person he trusts to keep him alive. Carmichael will never let me in that room. Dr. Carmichael, DeMarco said, and there was something dark and final in his voice. No longer has a vote. Step outside, Miss Chen. Maya dropped the phone. Through the front glass of the clinic, the night exploded with light. A black tactical SUV screeched to a halt on the sidewalk, followed immediately by a second vehicle. No sirens, just the aggressive, predatory rumble of military precision. The doors opened. 2 men in full tactical gear stepped out. Rain dripped off their helmets. They didn't look like security guards. They looked like war. Maya stood slowly. She looked down at her scrubs. Covered in dog hair and bleach stains, she looked like a janitor. She looked like nothing. The door chimed. Sergeant DeMarco stepped inside. He was enormous, 6'4", shoulders like a linebacker, water streaming off his tactical vest. He looked at Maya, really looked at her. taking in the tired eyes, the dirty scrubs, the hands raw from cleaning solution. He didn't see a janitor. He saw a soldier. "Ma'am," DeMarco said, "we have a helicopter waiting at the high school football field 2 blocks away. Roads are too slow. The general doesn't have time for traffic lights." "I can't. I'm not dressed." "General Donovan didn't ask for a fashion show, ma'am. He asked for a combat medic." DeMarco gestured to the door. "We need to move. Now." Maya looked back at the kennel area, at the mop bucket, at the life she'd been living for 6 months. Then she walked to the door. The rain hit her face like a baptism. "Let's go save a general," she said. The helicopter ride was violence in motion. Maya strapped into the jump seat, headset clamped over her ears. The city below reduced to streaks of gold and red through the rain-streaked windows. Sergeant DeMarco sat across from her, stone-faced, weapon across his lap. Maya's hands wouldn't stop shaking. 6 months of scrubbing dog kennels. 6 months of telling herself she was fine. She'd moved on. She didn't need nursing anymore. 6 months of lying. And now she was flying back into the place that had destroyed her. "Ma'am," DeMarco's voice crackled through the headset, "you need to understand the situation before we land." Maya looked up. "I'm listening." General Donovan collapsed during a classified debriefing at the Pentagon 4 hours ago. Seizures, respiratory distress, cardiac arrhythmia. They stabilize him enough for transport, but he's deteriorating fast. He specifically requested St. Michael's because you have the only level 4 biocontainment unit within 200 miles. Biocontainment? What was he exposed to? That's classified. I can't treat what I don't know about. You'll know what you need to know. DeMarco's jaw was tight. The problem isn't the exposure. The problem is Dr. Carmichael. Maya's stomach dropped. What did he do? We don't know yet. But the general, DeMarco stopped, started again. General Donovan has survived 3 wars, ma'am, 14 combat deployments. He's been shot, stabbed, blown up, and poisoned. And in 4 hours under Dr. Carmichael's care, he's coded twice. The helicopter banked hard. Through the window, Maya could see St. Michael's. The rooftop helipad was lit up like a stadium, surrounded by men in tactical gear. How bad is he? Maya asked quietly. DeMarco met her eyes. He's dying, ma'am, and he knows it. That's why he asked for you. The helicopter touched down hard. The door slid open, rain and wind screaming into the cabin. Maya ducked out, head down, and ran toward the roof access door. Dr. Victor Carmichael was waiting. He looked smaller than she remembered, soaked to the bone, shivering, surrounded by 3 armed soldiers who weren't letting him leave. When he saw Maya, his face twisted into something ugly. "This is insane!" Carmichael screamed over the rotor wash. "She's a fired employee. She has no license. If she touches him, I'll sue this entire unit. I'll have you all court-martialed." DeMarco stepped between them. He didn't yell. He simply placed one hand on his sidearm. "Doctor," DeMarco said, his voice cutting through the wind like a blade, "if you speak to Miss Chen again, I will zip-tie you to that railing and leave you in the rain. Do you understand?" Carmichael's mouth snapped shut. Maya walked past him without a word, without a glance. She was a nurse. She had a patient. Nothing else mattered. The corridor inside was chaos. Nurses running, alarms blaring. Someone was shouting about blood pressure. Someone else was crying. Maya pushed through the double doors into Trauma 1 and stopped dead. General Marcus Donovan was convulsing on the table. His skin was mottled red and gray, veins standing out like cables on his neck. The monitor showed a heart rate of 160, blood pressure 70/40. 3 IV lines were running wide open. 2 residents were frantically checking medication doses on their phones. This wasn't treatment. This was panic. BP's dropping. A young resident, barely out of medical school, was white as a sheet. "We're losing the pulse." Maya didn't ask permission. She walked straight to the bedside, her eyes scanning everything: the patient, the monitors, the IV bags, the medication chart on the computer screen. "Who's running this code?" Maya's voice cut through the chaos like a whip crack. Everyone turned. Rita was there, tears streaming down her face. "Maya, oh thank God. He's in anaphylactic shock, but the epi isn't working. We've pushed 3 rounds. Nothing's touching it." Maya grabbed Donovan's wrist. His pulse was thready, barely there. She pulled back his eyelids. Pinpoint pupils. She looked at the rash on his neck. Not hives. Petechiae. Tiny, broken blood vessels. "This isn't anaphylaxis," Maya said sharply. The doors crashed open behind her. Carmichael stormed in, flanked by DeMarco and 2 more soldiers. "She doesn't know what she's talking about." Carmichael's voice was shrill. "He was exposed to a nerve agent overseas. It's a delayed reaction. I've already started the atropine protocol." "Which nerve agent?" Maya didn't turn around. "That's classified." "Which nerve agent?" "I don't have to answer to you." Maya spun to face him. "If I treat the symptoms for a nerve agent with atropine, and he's actually suffering from something else, I'll kill him in 10 seconds. So I'll ask you one more time, doctor. Which nerve agent?" Carmichael's face went red. "How dare you question my—" "He doesn't know," Rita whispered. "Maya, he doesn't know. The military wouldn't tell him." Maya turned back to Donovan. She leaned down, putting her ear close to his mouth. His breath smelled faint, sweet, like almonds. No, like metal. She looked at the IV bags hanging on the stand. 3 normal saline, 1 labeled with a code she didn't recognize. EXP772. "What is this?" Maya pointed at the bag. The room went silent. Carmichael stepped forward. "That's standard saline with a vitamin supplement to boost his immune system during—" "You're lying." Maya ripped the bag off the stand and held it up to the light. The liquid had a faint, oily viscosity. She knew that coding system. She'd seen it in Afghanistan. Click trials. Experimental drugs. "Betty, crash cart, get me dantrolene and a sodium bicarb push. Now!" A nurse Maya didn't recognize, young, new, froze. "Dantrolene? That's for malignant hyperthermia. If we're wrong, we're not wrong." "No!" Carmichael lunged forward, grabbing Maya's arm. His fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. "I forbid you. That combination will stop his heart. I am the chief of surgery and I—" The crack of DeMarco's baton hitting Carmichael's forearm echoed through the trauma bay. Carmichael screamed and recoiled, clutching his arm. "Let her work," DeMarco growled. Rita was already moving, pulling medications from the cart. "Maya, what is it? What did he give him?" Maya looked at Donovan, arching his back, muscles locking up in rigid spasms. "He's not reacting to a nerve agent. He's reacting to that." She pointed at the EXP772 bag. "That's a coagulant, isn't it, Victor? Some new experimental clotting factor you're testing. You thought you'd fix his internal bleeding from the toxin exposure. You thought he was strong enough to handle it." Carmichael didn't answer. He was cradling his arm, sweat pouring down his face. His silence was confession. "The coagulant is reacting with residual nitrates in his blood," Maya explained, working as she talked. "From explosives. From years of working with explosives. It's creating a feedback loop. His blood is turning to sludge. If we don't alkalize his system and relax the muscles right now, his kidneys will explode and his heart will seize." "Do it," DeMarco said. Maya pushed the sodium bicarb into the central line, followed immediately by the dantrolene. "Hold him down. This is going to get worse before it gets better." 2 soldiers rushed forward, pinning Donovan's thrashing limbs to the table. The monitor let out a long, sustained tone. "Asystole," the young resident screamed. "He's flatlined." "Don't touch him," Maya ordered, her hand on Donovan's carotid artery. "Wait. He's dead," Carmichael yelled from the corner, a twisted vindication in his voice. "She killed him. I told you, arrest her." Wait, Maya said again. Her voice was steel. 10 seconds passed. An eternity. Rita's hand was over her mouth. The soldiers looked at Maya with dawning horror. Then, thump. A single jagged spike on the monitor. Thump, thump. The rhythm stabilized. The angry red rash on Donovan's neck began to fade like someone was erasing it from the inside out. Donovan's chest heaved. A deep, shuddering breath. His eyes opened, clear, sharp, focused. He turned his head slowly and looked directly at Maya. He didn't speak for a long moment, just looked at her. At the vet clinic scrubs covered in dog hair. At the tired eyes. At the fierce set of her jaw. Then he smiled, barely, just a ghost of a smile. I knew, he rasped, his voice like gravel. I knew the voice. Maya exhaled, her knees almost giving out. You cut it close, General. Donovan's eyes shifted past her, scanning the room until they landed on Carmichael, who was backing toward the door. Sergeant, Donovan said. DeMarco stepped to the bedside. Sir, secure that IV bag. Donovan's voice was getting stronger with every word. And secure the doctor. He just attempted to murder a high-ranking officer of the United States military by conducting an unauthorized medical experiment. Carmichael's knees buckled. No, General, you don't understand. It was a breakthrough treatment. I was trying to save you. The trial data showed. You needed a human subject, Maya said quietly, someone with high physical resilience who could survive the initial reaction, someone whose death you could blame on combat exposure. Carmichael's face went white. Get him out, Donovan ordered. 2 soldiers grabbed Carmichael by the arms. He started kicking, screaming, You can't do this. I have tenure. I have lawyers. I'll sue. The doors swung shut on his screams. The trauma bay went silent except for the steady beep of Donovan's monitor. Rita let out a sob of relief. The young resident collapsed into a chair, shaking. The other nurses just stared. Maya stepped back from the bed. Her entire body was trembling. 6 months of rage and grief and humiliation were trying to escape through her skin all at once. Clear the room, Donovan said suddenly. Rita looked up. General, we need to monitor. Out. Everyone except Nurse Chen and Sergeant DeMarco. The trauma bay emptied in 30 seconds. When the doors closed, Donovan tried to sit up. Maya immediately pushed him back down. Don't even think about it. Your body just went through chemical warfare. I've been through worse. Not on my watch, you haven't. Donovan smiled again. Then his expression went grave. He looked at DeMarco. Report. Sir, the building is secured. We have Carmichael in custody. The IV bag is being sent to... Not that report. Donovan looked at Maya. The other one. DeMarco's jaw tightened. Sir, we have confirmation. The pharmaceutical company behind the EXP 772 trial is Helix Biomed. They've been under investigation for 3 months for illegal human trials and defense contract fraud. We've been tracking their financial connections. They have a shell company that donated $8 million to St. Michael's new cardiovascular wing. Maya's blood went cold. Carmichael. Dr. Carmichael was the lead investigator on their clinical trials, DeMarco continued. We believe he was paid to conduct unauthorized human testing using patients he deemed acceptable risks. You mean expendable, Maya said quietly. Yes, ma'am. Donovan was watching her face. I didn't come here by accident, Maya. I had myself transferred to this specific hospital because we needed evidence. Carmichael had been careful, very careful. But when I collapsed during the Pentagon briefing, he coughed, winced. I knew he'd see me as the perfect test subject. High profile, combat veteran. If I survived, he'd be a hero. If I died, he'd blame it on classified toxin exposure, and no one could question it. You used yourself as bait, Maya said, horrified. I miscalculated. Donovan's voice was tight. I didn't think he'd be reckless enough to use a completely untested dosage. I thought I'd have time to... Another cough, this one wet and painful. Stop talking, Maya ordered. You're still in critical condition. Maya, listen to me. This isn't over. What do you mean? Helix Biomed has billions at stake. Their executives can't let me survive to testify, and they certainly can't let Carmichael talk. Donovan looked at DeMarco. Status on building security? DeMarco tapped his earpiece. His face went hard. Sir, we have a problem. Building security just reported that the main power grid was cut 30 seconds ago. We're on backup generators. The lights flickered. And? Donovan asked. And all electronic locks on the psychiatric ward and basement quarantine levels just disengaged. We have full facility lockdown protocols initiating, but the interior doors are already open. Maya looked at the monitor. The power flickered again. They're not coming to arrest Carmichael, Donovan said quietly. They're coming to burn the evidence, and that includes everyone in this room. How many people know what you just told me? Maya asked. In this hospital, just us three. Then we need to move, now. Donovan swung his legs off the table. His hands were shaking, but his jaw was set. Can you walk? Maya asked. Donovan grinned. It was a wolfish, dangerous expression. With you, Nurse Chen, I can run. The lights went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in pulsing red. And from somewhere deep in the hospital, someone started screaming. The screaming got closer. Maya was already moving. She grabbed the go bag from under the trauma counter, something she'd packed years ago for mass casualty events, back when this was still her hospital. Tourniquets, pressure dressings, morphine auto-injectors, surgical shears. If they cut the power, Maya said, stuffing supplies into the bag, they cut the ventilation too. It's going to get hot fast. We need to move, now. Donovan was on his feet, ripping EKG pads off his chest. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were clear. He looked at DeMarco. Weapons? DeMarco pulled a compact 9mm from an ankle holster and handed it to Donovan. You're at 40% capacity, sir. 40% of me is still more than enough to be a problem. Donovan checked the chamber with a practiced motion that made Maya's stomach clench. This wasn't a general. This was a killer who happened to wear stars. Where are we going? Maya asked. Roof's compromised, DeMarco said, moving to the door and cracking it open an inch. If they control the perimeter, they'll have snipers on the helipad. We need the sub-basement. Steam tunnels lead to the city maintenance grid. It's our only unseen exit. The lights flickered again. The emergency strobes cast everything in stuttering red snapshots. Down the hallway, something crashed. Glass breaking. Someone was sobbing. Move, DeMarco ordered. They slipped into the corridor. It looked like a war zone. Gurneys overturned, papers everywhere. Blood smeared on the wall, fresh, still dripping. Maya's heart was trying to punch through her ribs. A shape lurched out from the waiting area. A man in a hospital gown, massive, eyes completely dilated. Black. Wrong. He was holding a broken IV pole like a spear. He saw Maya first, and charged. Down, Donovan barked. Maya dropped into a crouch. The IV pole whistled over her head, close enough that she felt the wind. Before the man could swing again, Donovan moved. Despite everything, despite being poisoned, despite coding twice, despite being held together by adrenaline and spite, the general stepped inside the man's guard and struck. 2 movements, brutal, efficient. The man hit the floor and stayed there, groaning. Donovan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His hand was pressed to his chest. Maya was at his side instantly. Don't push it. Did you see his eyes? Donovan wheezed. Completely blown. They didn't just unlock the doors. They dosed the psychiatric patients with something, probably amphetamines. Turn them into chaos agents. They're creating a distraction, DeMarco said from the window, and we've got bigger problems. Maya looked. 4 black, unmarked vans were pulling up to the main entrance. Men in tactical gear were pouring out, at least a dozen, maybe more. Mercenaries, Donovan confirmed. Private military contractors. Helix Biomed keeps them on retainer for, he coughed, wet and painful. For situations like this. They're going to kill everyone, Maya whispered. Not everyone, just the witnesses. Us three. Carmichael. Anyone who saw what happened in that trauma bay. Donovan straightened up. We need to move. Now. The stairwell door 20 feet away crashed open. 3 figures in black tactical gear stepped through. DeMarco didn't hesitate. He pulled a flashbang from his vest and threw it. The explosion was blinding, deafening. The 3 mercenaries staggered back, hands flying to their helmets. Go, go, go! Donovan roared, shoving Maya toward the opposite stairwell. They burst through the door. Maya took the stairs 2 at a time, Donovan right behind her, DeMarco covering their rear. Behind them, the sharp crack of automatic weapons fire chewed up the doorframe they just passed through. Down, down, down. The air got colder, damper. The walls were older here, concrete and exposed pipes instead of the modern hospital finish. The emergency lights were fewer, leaving long stretches of darkness. Maya's lungs were burning. Her legs screamed. But she kept moving because Donovan was behind her, and his breathing was getting worse, developing a wet rattle that terrified her. They hit the sub-basement, the morgue level, industrial laundry, maintenance, the entrance to the city steam tunnels. Hold, Donovan whispered, raising a fist. They stopped in the shadow of a massive boiler. The silence was heavy, oppressive. Just the drip of water and the distant hum of backup generators. Then Maya heard it, a whimper. DeMarco moved silently, weapon raised. He rounded a stack of linen carts. Dr. Victor Carmichael was curled up on the floor, soaking wet, shivering. His expensive suit was torn. His face was streaked with dirt and tears. He looked up as DeMarco approached. His eyes went wide with terror. Don't shoot, please don't shoot. Quiet, DeMarco hissed. Carmichael scrambled to his feet. Then he saw Donovan and Maya. His fear instantly curdled into rage. You! Carmichael pointed a shaking finger at Maya. This is your fault, all of this. I was going to be Surgeon General. I was going to change medicine in this country. And you ruined everything. Shut up, Gregory, Maya said quietly. They were just supposed to make it look natural. The trial was supposed to work. If you had just stayed fired, if you had just disappeared like you were supposed to. He grabbed a heavy pipe wrench from a nearby shelf. Put it down, Donovan said, raising his weapon. You think you're a hero? Carmichael was screaming now, his voice echoing dangerously in the concrete space. You're nothing, a washed-up nurse who doesn't know her place. You should have stayed in that veterinary clinic. You should have... He raised the wrench. The far door exploded inward. Debris rained down. 4 mercenaries poured through the breach, weapon lights cutting through the dark like lasers. Contact front, one of them yelled. DeMarco opened fire immediately. Take cover! Donovan grabbed Maya and threw her behind the boiler's concrete base, just as the air filled with the supersonic crack of rifle rounds. Bullets sparked off machinery, whining as they ricocheted. Carmichael didn't take cover. He ran toward the mercenaries, waving his arms. Wait, wait! I'm Dr. Carmichael. I'm the asset. I'm on your side. I can help you find them. The lead mercenary didn't even slow down. No loose ends, the man said calmly. 3 rounds caught Carmichael's center mass. He looked down at his chest, stunned, watching the red blooms spread across his white shirt. Then his legs folded and he collapsed onto the wet concrete without another sound. Maya watched him fall. She should have felt something. Vindication, satisfaction, something. She felt nothing. DeMarco! Donovan yelled. DeMarco was firing, holding the mercenaries at the choke point of the blown door. Then he grunted and spun. A round had caught him high in the shoulder, spinning him around. He dropped to one knee, blood pouring over his tactical vest. Man down! Maya screamed. Every instinct in her body took over. She was a trauma nurse. She had a patient bleeding out in a kill zone. Nothing else existed. She bolted from behind the boiler, staying low, sprinting across 10 feet of open ground while bullets tore up the concrete around her feet. She slid in next to DeMarco behind a metal workbench. "Suppressing fire!" Donovan roared. Despite his condition, despite everything, Donovan leaned out from behind the boiler and unleashed controlled bursts with his pistol. The mercenaries ducked back. Maya ripped open DeMarco's vest. The wound was ugly. Through and deltoid, arterial spray. "I've got you, Sergeant," Maya said, her hands already moving. She pulled a tourniquet from her bag. "This is going to hurt like hell." "Do it," DeMarco gasped. Maya cranked the tourniquet tight. DeMarco's face went gray, but he didn't make a sound. "Go," DeMarco wheezed. "Get the general out." "Shut up," Maya said, packing the wound with hemostatic gauze. "Nobody dies on my shift. Not you, not him, not today." Donovan reloaded. His movements were getting slower. He was running on fumes in fury. "Sarah, we can't hold here. They're bringing up grenades." Maya finished the pressure dressing and hauled DeMarco to his feet. He was twice her size, but adrenaline made her strong. "The tunnels, 50 yards behind the generators." They retreated into the shadows. Donovan fired until his slide locked back empty. They dove into the darkness of the steam tunnel entrance, just as a grenade tumbled into the boiler room behind them. The explosion was massive. The tunnel entrance collapsed behind them, sealing them in with twisted metal and concrete rubble. They were alive. They were in the tunnels, but they were hurt, out of ammunition, and miles from safety, and Donovan was coughing up blood. The steam tunnels were a nightmare. Dripping pipes, rats, oppressive heat. Maya was essentially carrying DeMarco, his good arm draped over her shoulder. On her other side, Donovan stumbled forward on pure willpower. Every few yards he would stop, cough, and blood would spatter onto the concrete. "Leave me," Donovan wheezed, sliding down against a graffitied wall. "Take DeMarco, get to the surface. I'll hold the tunnel." "Not happening," Maya said. "That's an order, nurse." "I don't work for the military." Maya grabbed his tactical vest and hauled him upright with a grunt. "I don't work for the hospital. I'm unemployed, so you can keep your orders, General. Now walk." Donovan looked at her. His face was gray. Sweat poured down his temples, but something in his eyes shifted. "Why?" His voice was soft. "After what they did to you, why are you saving me?" Maya adjusted her grip on DeMarco. Her shoulders were screaming. "Because I'm a nurse, Jack. It doesn't matter if I'm in a surgical suite or a sewer. I save lives. That's the job. Even mine? Especially yours." They pushed forward. The tunnel seemed endless. Maya's legs were shaking. Her vision was starting to blur. Then the tunnel began to slope upward. A rusty iron ladder led to a manhole cover. Cold water dripped through the holes. Rain. "DeMarco," Maya shook him. "We're here. Can you climb?" DeMarco nodded, groggy. "I can make it." He went first, pushing the heavy cover aside with a groan. He climbed out, weapon raised, scanning. "Clear." Maya helped Donovan up the ladder, pushing from below. He was dead weight now, barely conscious. She climbed out last into the pouring rain. They were in an alley, 3 blocks from the hospital. Sirens wailed in the distance, converging on St. Michael's. The alley was quiet, too quiet. "We need a phone," Maya said, wiping rain from her eyes. "We need police." "No police," Donovan coughed, leaning against a dumpster. "The people who paid Carmichael own the police commissioner. If we call 911, they track the location and the kill squad finishes the job." "Then who do we call?" "Jack, you're dying. You need a hospital now." Before he could answer, blinding headlights flooded the alley from both ends. 2 black SUVs blocked the exits. Doors opened. 6 men in tactical gear stepped out, weapons raised. A man in a suit walked forward, holding an umbrella. He looked like a banker, but his eyes were dead. "End of the line, General," the man said calmly. "It's over. Dr. Carmichael is dead. The hospital is burning. You three are the last loose ends. Make it easy and it'll be quick." Donovan pushed himself off the dumpster. He stumbled past Maya, putting himself between her and the guns. "You want me? Come and get me. But let the civilian go." "No witnesses, General," the man smiled. "You know the rules." He raised his hand to give the fire order. Maya grabbed Donovan's hand. She squeezed her eyes shut. This was it. This was how it ended. In a dirty alley in the rain after everything. Then the sky exploded. The sound wasn't gunfire. It was the roar of rotor blades, so loud and so close it shook water from the puddles. A spotlight from directly above turned night into day. "Drop your weapons! This is the United States Army Rangers! Drop your weapons or you will be fired upon." The voice boomed from a loudspeaker, loud enough to rattle teeth. Fast ropes dropped from the darkness. Within seconds, a dozen Rangers descended into the alley, moving with a speed and precision that made the mercenaries look like children playing soldier. Red laser sights painted every chest. "Get on the ground! Now! Now! Now!" The mercenaries didn't even try. They dropped their weapons and hit the pavement. A tall figure in a Ranger uniform walked through the chaos, ignoring the zip-tied bodies. He walked straight to Donovan and saluted. "General Sterling sends his regards, Colonel Donovan," the Ranger captain said. "We picked up your distress beacon 10 minutes ago. Sorry for the delay. Weather's been a bitch." Donovan let out a breath he'd been holding for an hour. He looked at Maya. He smiled. Then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. "Medic!" the captain screamed. "Get the bird down here. Priority 1 casualty." Maya dropped to her knees beside Donovan. "Jack, stay with me. Jack!" "Tired," Donovan whispered, gripping her hand. "So tired. But I got the nurse." "Yeah," Maya cried, tears mixing with rain. "You got the nurse. Now let the nurse save you." She looked up at the Ranger medic rushing toward them. "Chemically induced coagulopathy, smoke inhalation, probable pulmonary hemorrhage. Start high-flow O2 and get 2 large-bore IVs running wide open. Move." The medic looked at this woman in dirty, dog-hair-covered scrubs, barking orders. He looked at Donovan's hand gripping hers. "Yes, ma'am," he shouted. They loaded Donovan onto the stretcher. The helicopter descended, rotors screaming. They lifted him up and away into the storm. Maya stood in the alley, exhausted, freezing, jobless. But for the first time in 6 months, she stood tall. The Ranger captain put a thermal blanket around Maya's shoulders. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. "Ma'am, we need to get you checked out," he said gently. "You're in shock." "I'm fine." "Ma'am, I said I'm fine." Maya pulled the blanket tighter. "What about DeMarco?" "Already in the air. They're taking him to Walter Reed. He'll make it thanks to your tourniquet work." The captain studied her face. "You're Maya Chen." It wasn't a question. "Yeah." General Donovan briefed us before the operation. He said if anything happened to him, we were to get you out first, before anyone else. Those were his exact orders. Maya's throat tightened. "He's an idiot." "Yes, ma'am, that's what makes him a good general." The captain gestured to an SUV. "We need to move you to a secure location. Helix Biomed has deep pockets and a long reach. Until we round up their executive team, you're still a target." Maya climbed into the SUV. Her body moved, but her brain was somewhere else, floating, disconnected. She'd saved Donovan's life. She'd escaped mercenaries. She'd survived. But Carmichael was dead. She kept seeing him fall, kept seeing the shock on his face when the bullets hit. He'd thought he was safe. He'd thought his handlers would protect him. He'd been so wrong. "Ma'am?" The Ranger in the driver's seat was looking at her in the rearview mirror. "We're taking you to a safe house in Arlington. FBI will want to debrief you in the morning." "What happened at the hospital?" The Ranger and the captain exchanged a look. Ma'am, don't lie to me. What happened? The captain sighed. The fire department is still fighting the blaze on the fourth and fifth floors. The psychiatric patients who were released caused significant casualties before we could secure the building. 3 nurses dead, 2 doctors, 5 patients. He paused. It could have been worse. Your friend Rita Garcia got most of the trauma staff into a secure lockdown room before the mercenaries reached them. Rita, Maya's voice cracked. Is she okay? Shaken up, but alive. Maya closed her eyes. 3 nurses dead, people she'd worked with, people with families and kids and lives, all because Carmichael wanted to be famous. The SUV pulled up to a nondescript townhouse in Arlington. The captain walked her to the door, his hand never leaving his sidearm. Inside, 2 FBI agents were waiting. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a younger man with a laptop. Miss Chen, the woman said, extending her hand. I'm Special Agent Caroline Martinez. This is Agent Park. We need to ask you some questions. I need to know if General Donovan is alive. He's in surgery at Walter Reed. That's all we know right now. I need to know, Miss Chen. Martinez's voice was firm, but not unkind. I understand you've been through hell tonight, but we have a very narrow window to move on Helix Biomed's executive team before they disappear. We need your statement. Now. Maya sat down. She told them everything. The firing, the 6 months of exile, the emergency call, the poisoning, the steam tunnels, the alley. She talked for 3 hours straight. When she finished, Agent Park looked up from his laptop. You're saying Dr. Carmichael admitted that Helix Biomed paid him to conduct unauthorized human trials? Yes. And General Donovan confirmed that he'd been investigating the connection between Helix and the hospital's new wing. Yes, Martinez leaned forward. Miss Chen, do you understand what you're describing as a conspiracy that goes all the way to the Pentagon? Helix Biomed has contracts worth billions. They have senators on their payroll. They have... I don't care who they have, Maya interrupted. I know what I saw. I know what Carmichael did. And I know 3 nurses are dead because someone decided profit was more important than lives. Martinez smiled. It was a cold, predatory smile. Good, because we're going to need you to testify before a grand jury. And it's going to get ugly. How ugly? Helix will try to destroy you. They'll dig up everything. Your firing, your license suspension. They'll paint you as a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. Martinez paused. They'll make Carmichael look like a saint, and you look like the villain. Maya thought about the last 6 months, scrubbing dog kennels, eating ramen because she couldn't afford groceries, lying to her daughter about how bad things really were. Let them try, Maya said quietly. Martinez nodded. Get some rest. We'll have agents outside all night. Don't leave the house. Don't call anyone. We'll update you on General Donovan's condition as soon as we know more. Maya was shown to a bedroom upstairs. She sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her dog hair-covered scrubs, and stared at the wall. Her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten she still had it. 17 missed calls from Sophie. Maya called her back. Sophie answered on the first ring. Mom! Oh my God, Mom, I saw the news. They're saying there was an attack at St. Michael's. They're saying... I'm okay, sweetheart. You were there, weren't you? The news said a fired nurse saved a general's life, and I knew it was you. Sophie, Maya's voice broke. I can't talk about it right now. I just needed to hear your voice. Sophie was crying. Are you safe? Yeah, I'm safe. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for what they did to you. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry. None of this is your fault, you hear me? None of it. They talked for another 10 minutes. Maya finally convinced Sophie to go back to bed, promised she'd call again in the morning, and hung up. She lay down on the bed, still in her scrubs, and closed her eyes. She didn't expect to sleep, but exhaustion dragged her under like a riptide. She dreamed of Carmichael falling, over and over. The shock on his face, the red blooming across his chest. In the dream, he looked at her and whispered, "This is your fault." Maya woke up gasping. It was 6 a.m. Gray light filtered through the curtains. Someone was knocking on the door. "Miss Chen?" Agent Martinez. "We have an update on General Donovan." Maya's heart stopped. She opened the door. Martinez's face was carefully neutral. "He made it through surgery. He's in ICU, critical but stable." She paused. "He's asking for you." "I thought you said I couldn't leave the house." "We're making an exception. We'll have a full security detail. Walter Reed is more secure than Fort Knox right now." Martinez's expression softened. He was very insistent. Apparently, he doesn't follow doctor's orders very well. Maya almost smiled. "No, he doesn't." 30 minutes later, Maya was in an SUV surrounded by federal agents, heading to Walter Reed Medical Center. The hospital was locked down tight. Armed soldiers at every entrance, metal detectors, ID checks. They took her to the ICU on the 6th floor. More security, more ID checks. Finally, a nurse led her to a private room at the end of the hall. Donovan was in the bed, connected to more machines than Maya could count. His face was gray. His eyes were closed. Maya's chest constricted. Then his eyes opened. Those sharp blue eyes, still fierce despite everything. "You look terrible," Donovan rasped. "You're one to talk." He smiled, barely. "They tell me I'm going to live." That was the plan. DeMarco? Alive. He'll have full use of the arm. Donovan exhaled slowly. "Good. That's good." He looked at her for a long moment. "They told me about the grand jury, about Helix coming after you." "I can handle it." "I know you can, but you shouldn't have to." Donovan's hand moved slightly on the bed. Maya took it. His grip was weak but steady. "I'm sorry, Maya. I'm sorry you got pulled into this. I'm sorry Carmichael destroyed your career. I'm sorry." "Stop." Maya squeezed his hand. "You didn't destroy my career. Carmichael did, and he paid for it." "Did he?" Donovan's voice was harsh. "He's dead. The executives at Helix are still alive, still free, still running their company like nothing happened. Carmichael was a symptom. The disease is still out there. Then we cut out the disease." Donovan studied her face. "You sound like a soldier." "I was a soldier, long before I was a nurse." Maya leaned forward. "What do you need me to do?" "Testify. Tell the truth. Let the FBI build their case." Donovan coughed, wincing. "But Maya, you need to understand what you're up against. Helix has unlimited resources. They will come after you with everything they have." "I don't care." "You should care. They'll—" The door burst open. Agent Martinez rushed in, her weapon drawn. "We need to move, now." "What's happening?" Maya demanded. "Helix just posted bail for their entire executive team. $20 million. They're out." Martinez was already pulling Donovan's bed toward the door, and 10 minutes ago someone tried to access the hospital's security system remotely. They were trying to get a layout of this floor. "They're coming for us," Donovan said flatly. "Not if we move first. We have a transport ready on the roof. We're taking you both to an undisclosed military facility until—" The lights went out. Maya's blood turned to ice. "Not again. Not again." Emergency lighting kicked in, red and pulsing. "Backup generators should have engaged," Martinez said into her radio. "What the hell is going on?" A voice crackled back. "Main power substation was hit. Someone cut the lines. We're running on battery backup. We have maybe 30 minutes before—" Gunfire erupted from somewhere below them, then screaming. Martinez grabbed Maya's arm. "We're going. Now." 2 more agents burst into the room. They surrounded Donovan's bed, weapons raised, and pushed it toward the emergency stairwell. Maya ran alongside, her hands still gripping Donovan's. They made it to the stairwell, started climbing. Donovan's monitors were beeping frantically. alarms screaming about disconnected leads and elevated heart rate. "Keep moving," Martinez yelled. They were halfway to the roof when the door below them crashed open. 3 men in black tactical gear rushed into the stairwell. The FBI agents opened fire immediately. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. One mercenary went down. The other 2 returned fire. An agent next to Maya grunted and fell, clutching his leg. "Go!" he screamed. "Go!" They kept climbing. Maya's legs were burning. Her lungs screamed. Behind them, the gunfight raged. They burst through the roof access door into blinding sunlight. A military helicopter was waiting, rotors spinning. "Get him on board!" Martinez yelled. They lifted Donovan's bed, struggling with the weight, and carried him toward the helicopter. Maya was right behind them when she heard her name. "Maya!" She turned. Standing in the roof access doorway was a woman in an expensive suit, late 50s, silver hair pulled back. She looked like someone's grandmother. She was holding a gun. "My name is Catherine Brennan," the woman said calmly. "I'm the CEO of Helix Biomed, and you need to stop making this harder than it has to be." Martinez raised her weapon. "Put the gun down." "I don't think so." Brennan's voice was pleasant, conversational. "You see, Miss Chen has become a significant problem for my company. Dr. Carmichael was supposed to handle the general quietly. Instead, Miss Chen interfered. Now she wants to testify, to destroy everything we built." "You've built a house of corpses," Maya said. "I've built a pharmaceutical empire that saves millions of lives. The EXP-772 trial would have revolutionized trauma care. Yes, there were acceptable losses during development. That's how science works," Brennan smiled. Dr. Carmichael understood that. He was willing to make the hard choices. He murdered patients. He advanced medicine. Brennan raised the gun, pointing it directly at Maya's chest. "And you're going to walk away. You're going to refuse to testify. You're going to disappear, or I will personally ensure that everyone you love suffers." "My daughter," Maya whispered. "Sophie, sophomore at MIT, bright girl, beautiful. It would be such a shame if something happened to her." White-hot rage exploded in Maya's chest. She started toward Brennan. "Stop," Brennan said. Maya didn't stop. "I said stop." The gunshot was shockingly loud. Maya felt the impact, like being punched in the shoulder. She stumbled but kept moving. Martinez fired. Brennan went down. Maya collapsed to her knees, clutching her shoulder. Blood poured between her fingers. "Medic!" Martinez screamed. Hands grabbed Maya, lifted her, carried her toward the helicopter. She could hear Donovan yelling her name. The world spun, tilted, then everything went black. Pain dragged Maya back to consciousness, sharp, burning. Her shoulder felt like someone had driven a railroad spike through it. She opened her eyes to blinding white light and the steady beep of monitors. A hospital room. Again. "Welcome back." Maya turned her head. Donovan was sitting in a wheelchair next to her bed. He looked like hell, pale, thin, dark circles under his eyes. But he was alive, and he was smiling. "How long?" Maya's voice came out as a croak. 36 hours. You lost a lot of blood. The bullet went clean through, but it nicked your subclavian artery. They had to do emergency surgery. Donovan wheeled closer. "You scared the hell out of me." "Brennan, dead." Agent Martinez put 3 rounds center mass. Donovan's expression hardened. But before she died, she made one phone call to her legal team. They had a contingency plan. Maya's stomach dropped. "Sophie is fine, safe. We had FBI agents at MIT within 15 minutes. She's in protective custody." Donovan reached out and took Maya's good hand. "I made you a promise, Maya. Nobody touches your daughter. Nobody." Tears burned Maya's eyes. She blinked them back. "What happens now?" "Now we finish what we started." The door opened. Agent Martinez walked in carrying a thick folder. Her arm was in a sling, but her eyes were sharp. "Miss Chen, good to see you awake. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Helix Biomed declared bankruptcy this morning, liquidated all assets. The executive team scattered to 12 different countries, most of which don't have extradition treaties with the United States." Martinez dropped the folder on Maya's bed. "Without Brennan, without Carmichael, without physical evidence from the hospital, which burned, we have no case." Maya stared at her. "You're saying they win?" "I'm saying it's complicated." "Complicated?" Maya's voice was flat, dead. "3 nurses are dead. Carmichael experimented on patients like they were lab rats. Brennan tried to murder a general and shot me on a hospital roof. And it's complicated. The legal system isn't perfect. The legal system is broken." Maya pushed herself upright, ignoring the screaming pain in her shoulder. "You're telling me these people walk free? After everything?" Martinez's jaw tightened. "I'm telling you that without hard evidence, without witnesses who'll survive cross-examination, without—" "You have me," Maya interrupted. "I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. They'll destroy you on the stand. Helix's lawyers will tear apart your credibility. Fired nurse with a grudge against the hospital. License suspended. History of violating protocols." Martinez's voice softened. "I believe you, Miss Chen, but a jury? That's a different story." "Then what was the point?" Maya's voice cracked. "What was the point of any of this if they just walk away?" Donovan squeezed her hand. "They don't walk away, not all of them." Martinez nodded. "We managed to freeze some assets before the bankruptcy, and we have cooperation from 3 former Helix employees willing to testify about the illegal trials. It's not much, but it's something." "It's not enough," Maya said. "No," Martinez agreed. "It's not." Silence filled the room. Then Donovan spoke. "There's another option." Both women looked at him. "The military has its own investigation ongoing. Helix had defense contracts, classified projects. They lied about trial data on combat medications. That's not a civilian crime. That's treason." Donovan's smile was cold. "And treason we can prosecute anywhere in the world." "You're talking about military tribunals," Martinez said slowly. "I'm talking about justice. That could take years." "Then we take years." Donovan looked at Maya. "But we don't stop. We don't give up. We make sure every single person involved in this pays for what they did." Maya wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that justice was possible. But she'd learned the hard way that the system protected the powerful and crushed the vulnerable. "I need air," Maya said. "I need to get out of this room." "Doctor said you need to rest." "I don't care what the doctor said." Maya swung her legs over the side of the bed. Pain exploded through her shoulder, but she gritted her teeth and stood. The room spun. She grabbed the IV pole for support. Donovan was already wheeling toward her. "Let me help." "I can walk." "I know you can, but you don't have to do everything alone anymore." Something in his voice made Maya stop. She looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd survived 3 wars, who'd used himself as bait to expose corruption, who'd refused treatment from anyone but her. "Why me?" Maya asked quietly. "Why did you ask for me specifically? You could have had any military medic, any trauma surgeon. Why a fired nurse you'd never met?" Donovan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Afghanistan, 3 years ago. I was pinned down with my unit. Half of them were bleeding out. Our medic was hit. No air support, no evacuation. And then this voice came over the radio. Calm, steady, talking me through procedures I'd never done before, telling me exactly where to cut, where to clamp, where to apply pressure." He paused. 7 men lived that day because of that voice. Because some combat nurse I'd never seen took 47 minutes out of her life to save strangers. Maya's throat tightened. "I was just doing my job. You saved my entire unit. And when I looked you up after we got extracted, when I saw your record, 18 years of trauma experience, combat deployments, medals for valor. I thought, this is someone who understands what it means to fight. Donovan's voice roughened. Then 6 months ago, I saw your name in a DoD medical database flagged for license review. I read the incident report, and I knew exactly what kind of person you were. The kind who breaks the rules to save lives. The kind who can't be bought or intimidated. The kind I needed. You used me, Maya said. I gave you a chance to fight back. Maya stared at him. Then she started laughing. It hurt her shoulder like hell, but she couldn't stop. You're a manipulative bastard, you know that? I'm a general. It's in the job description. They made it to the hospital garden. Maya sat on a bench, her IV pole beside her, and tilted her face toward the sun. Donovan sat in his wheelchair next to her. What happens to me now? Maya asked. My license is still suspended. I still can't work as a nurse in Illinois. And after all this, after testifying, after the media circus, no hospital is ever going to hire me. Is that what you want? To go back to working for a hospital? Maya thought about St. Michael's, about Carmichael's toxic kingdom, about the politics and the bureaucracy and the way good nurses were ground down by administrators who'd never held a patient's hand. No, she said slowly, I don't think it is. Good. Donovan pulled an envelope from his wheelchair bag. Because I have a proposal. Maya took the envelope. Inside was official Department of Defense letterhead. Chief Medical Officer, Special Operations Command, Maya read aloud. Civilian consultant position. Full medical authority over field operations. Reports directly to... She looked up. This is your signature. I got promoted while you were unconscious. Turns out exposing massive pharmaceutical corruption gets you a few stars. Donovan's expression was serious now. Maya, I need someone I can trust. Someone who'll tell me when I'm being an idiot. Someone who'll break every rule in the book if it means saving lives. I need you. I'm not military. I know, that's why I want you. The military has plenty of people who follow orders. I need someone who follows their conscience. Maya stared at the letter. Chief Medical Officer, her own team, real authority. The chance to actually make a difference instead of fighting bureaucrats for every single decision. There's a catch, Donovan added. The job is dangerous. You'll be deployed to active combat zones. You'll see things that'll give you nightmares. You'll make decisions that'll haunt you. And you'll probably get shot at again. Sold, Maya said. Donovan blinked. You don't want time to think about it? I've been thinking about it for 6 months, every night scrubbing dog kennels, every morning waking up and remembering I used to save lives. Maya looked at the letter again, then at Donovan. When do I start? As soon as you can pass the physical. I was shot 36 hours ago. Then I guess you better heal fast. Maya smiled. It felt strange, like a muscle she hadn't used in months. You're really a piece of work, General. So I've been told. The next 3 months were brutal. Physical therapy for her shoulder, weapons training, tactical medicine courses. Maya pushed herself harder than she'd ever pushed before. Because for the first time since Carmichael had destroyed her career, she had something to fight for. Sophie came to visit during Thanksgiving break. She found Maya on the firing range, putting rounds through targets at 50 yards. Mom! Sophie stood at the edge of the range, arms crossed. This is insane! Maya put down the pistol and pulled off her ear protection. What's insane? You're 42 years old. You got shot. You almost died. And now you're training to go to war zones? Sophie's voice cracked. I already lost, Dad. I can't lose you too. Maya walked over and pulled her daughter into a hug. Sophie resisted for exactly 3 seconds before wrapping her arms around her mother and sobbing. I'm not going anywhere, Maya said quietly. I'm finally doing what I was meant to do. Scrubbing dog kennels wasn't what you were meant to do? Smartass. Maya pulled back and looked at her daughter. Sophie, for 6 months I was invisible. I was nothing. A cautionary tale about what happens when you defy the system. And I started believing it. I started thinking maybe Carmichael was right. Maybe I was just a rebellious nurse who didn't know her place. You saved a general's life. I saved a lot of lives, and I'm going to save a lot more. But I can't do that if I'm safe, if I'm hiding. Maya touched Sophie's face. Your father taught me that. He didn't go to war because it was safe. He went because people needed him. And he died. And he died doing what he believed in. That's not a tragedy, sweetheart. That's a life well lived. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Promise me you'll be careful. I promise I'll be smart. Not the same thing. It's the best I can do. They spent the rest of the weekend together. Sophie told her about MIT, about her classes, about the boy she was dating who was studying aerospace engineering. Maya told her edited versions of her training, leaving out the parts that would give her daughter nightmares. When Sophie left on Sunday, Maya stood in the parking lot and watched her taxi disappear. Then she went back to the firing range and put another 100 rounds through targets until her shoulders screamed and her hands shook. She had work to do. 6 months after the night that changed everything, Maya Chen stood in the grand ballroom of the Willard Intercontinental Hotel in Washington, D.C. She was wearing her service dress uniform, the one they'd issued her when she officially joined Special Operations Command. And she was surrounded by generals and senators and people who'd spent their entire lives accumulating power. None of them intimidated her anymore. Miss Chen, the Secretary of Defense, stood at the podium. Would you please step forward? Maya walked to the stage. The applause started slowly, then built into something that shook the chandeliers. The secretary pinned a medal to her chest, the Presidential Citizens Medal, the highest civilian honor for valor. For extraordinary courage in the face of danger, the secretary said, for refusing to accept corruption even when it cost her everything, for proving that one person with conviction is stronger than 1,000 with mere interest. Maya Chen, you are a credit to this nation. The applause was deafening. Maya looked out at the crowd. She saw Rita, tears streaming down her face. She saw Sophie beaming with pride. She saw Agent Martinez, arms still in a sling, nodding approval. And she saw General Marcus Donovan, standing tall in his dress blues, saluting her. After the ceremony, Maya found Donovan on a balcony overlooking the city. Hell of a night, he said, handing her a glass of champagne. Hell of a 6 months. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lights of D.C. spread out below them. I have your first assignment, Donovan said eventually. Already? There's a situation developing in Eastern Europe, civilian casualties, limited medical infrastructure. They need someone who can set up a field hospital in 48 hours and keep people alive under fire. He looked at her. They need you. Maya thought about her apartment in Oak Park, sitting empty. She thought about the quiet life she could have, the safe life. She thought about Private Lucas Reyes, alive because she'd refused to wait for permission. She thought about the 3 nurses who died at St. Michael's, who deserved justice. She thought about every patient she'd ever saved, and every patient she'd failed, and every moment she'd chosen to fight instead of surrender. When do I leave? Maya asked. Donovan smiled. 72 hours. You'll have a full team, combat medics, supplies, everything you need, except safety. Safety's overrated. Maya raised her glass. To dangerous work. Donovan clinked his glass against hers. To the people brave enough to do it. They drank. Below them, the city sparkled. Above them, stars pierced the darkness. And Maya Chen, 42 years old, formerly fired, formerly broken, formerly invisible, stood tall and ready for whatever came next. Because she'd learned something in those 6 months of hell. She'd learned that the system was designed to crush people like her. People who asked questions. People who refused to follow orders that would kill patients. People who believed that doing the right thing mattered more than keeping your job. But she'd also learned that the system only won if you let it. Carmichael had tried to destroy her. He'd failed. Helix Biomed had tried to kill her. They'd failed. The entire weight of institutional corruption had tried to silence her, and they'd all failed. Because Maya Chen was a nurse, and nurses didn't give up. They didn't quit. They kept fighting even when the odds were impossible, even when the patient was coding, even when everyone else had walked away. They fought because that's what healers do. They fought because lives mattered. They fought because someone had to. 3 weeks later, Maya was in a transport plane heading to a war zone. Her teams surrounded her, 12 combat medics who'd volunteered for the assignment. Young, scared, determined. One of them, a corporal who couldn't have been older than 22, leaned over. "Ma'am, is it true you got fired for saving a patient's life?" Maya looked at him. "Yeah, it's true. And they tried to kill you for it?" "Yeah." The corporal was quiet. Then he said, "I'm glad you're here, ma'am. I'm glad you didn't quit." Maya smiled. "Me too, Corporal. Me too." The plane hit turbulence. Equipment rattled. Someone cursed. But Maya sat steady, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes focused on the horizon. She was going back to war. But this time, she was going on her own terms. This time, nobody could fire her for doing what was right. This time, she had the authority to save lives without asking permission from anyone. And if that meant breaking rules, if that meant defying orders, if that meant standing between patients and the people who'd rather let them die than admit they were wrong, then that's exactly what she'd do. Because Maya Chen had learned the most important lesson of her life in that dirty alley in the rain, watching a general refuse to die, watching mercenaries surround them, watching the whole corrupt system try one last time to silence the truth. She'd learned that one person with courage could change everything. She'd learned that doing the right thing always costs something, but not doing it costs everything. She'd learned that the people who follow orders aren't the heroes. The heroes are the ones brave enough to break them. The plane descended toward the landing zone, toward the wounded, toward the chaos, toward the fight. And Maya Chen, once fired, once broken, once silenced, leaned forward in her seat and smiled, because she was exactly where she belonged.